Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
The following is independently produced programming. The views and opinions expressed are those of the producers and do not reflect the views and opinions of Falls Area Community Television, our staff, or board of directors.
Secrets in the shadows, lost and found. Truth in every echo, loud and clear. Keep on with the long road, no more fear. In the halls of power, whispers grow. Every secret cracked beneath the undertone. Honor stories hidden in the glass. On this long road, in the truth we trust.
Welcome to The Long Road. I'm your host, Chris Roberts. As you can see, I have my Marine Corps shirt on today. This is for any Marines out there or anybody that happens to know a Marine. They know that November 10th, next Monday, will be the Marine Corps' 250th birthday. You may have heard about the Army's 250th rolling tanks and everything down Washington, D.C. You maybe hear a little bit about the Navy, but everybody's going to hear about the Marine Corps birthday. We like to brag. We're the best. We got the best uniforms. Our uniforms are so good that we haven't had to change them that much in the past 250 years. Picking on the Army, unfortunately, they went and changed their uniforms back to World War II uniforms. You got to congratulate the Army on the 250th. You got to congratulate the Navy on their 250th. The Air Force is coming up to their 50th. But if you want to party, you party with Marines. And after all, what army, what military organization was formed in a pub over a few drafts? And Marines have been drinking, sometimes too much, partying, sometimes too much, for the last 250 years, and I suspect we'll be doing it again for the next 250 years from now. So, to all my fellow Marines out there, Semper Fi and happy birthday. And so, just to get the point across, I wearing this shirt, which says United States Marine Corps veteran, has nothing to do with anything political, has nothing to do with endorsing anything. It just has to do, I'm proud to have the opportunity to be a Marine. I'm proud to have the opportunity to lead men and women who became Marines. And I'm proud the fact that I've never embarrassed the Marine Corps and set the continuing tradition of excellence that the Marine Corps has. And I'm also proud to wish happy 250th birthday, Marine, to my grandson, who's a Marine stationed down in South Carolina, and who last year at this time was in the Mediterranean off the coast of Lebanon on a U.S. troop carrier. So again, happy birthday, Marines. Now, let's get to something. We're going to have two topics today. You know what? It would have been really good if these two topics were being held up to the standard of Marine Corps leadership, because if they had been held up to the standards of Marine Corps leadership, they wouldn't be topics worthy of talking about. Because leadership means preventing something before it becomes a problem. It's kind of like the things in the Marine Corps. The best wars are the wars you never have to fight. You always work ahead. You have leadership out there to prevent things from going wrong, but at the same time being totally prepared to solve the problem if it does go wrong after all the events that you tried to, all the actions you did your best to prevent from going wrong. And we have a saying is, you cannot always protect people from their own stupidity. And as we know, there's a lot of elected officials with D's and R's behind their name who seems like they're in a race, they're in a contest to prove to the American people who has the greatest lack of leadership, who has the ability to do the stupidest thing. Okay? Stupidity, lack of leadership, that isn't restricted to Democrats. That isn't restricted to Republicans, not even independents. It's not restricted to CEOs. It's not restricted to local elected officials. It's widespread. It is extremely widespread. So it is getting to the point that a person with leadership, a person with morals, ethics, integrity, those are pretty rare events. They were quite common as we were growing as a nation. But, in the last 50 years, no. It was felt like there's no need to prove your leadership ability or prove, okay? But what you see more often is you go, elect me, a person of integrity. Well, elect me, I'm hardworking. Elect me, I'm honest. Elect me, I'm truthworthy. Elect me, I'm compassionate. You know what? If you have to say you are those, chances are you're doing your best to convince people. But more important is, I think you're really trying to convince yourself that you are compassionate, you have integrity, you have morals. Because if you're a leader, you don't have to tell anybody you're a leader. You don't have to put a display on a rank or whatever to say you're a leader. If you have integrity, you have compassion, you're hardworking, you're moral, the people know it. The people do not have to be told. And that's why today we have I'm only picking two. I'm picking tariffs and I'm picking the government shutdown. I'm not talking about ICE or not talking about some of these other things, but I'm just talking about these two. Yes, today the government has been shut down for 36 days. Okay, but what does the government shutdown mean? Okay, what does it mean to me, or what does it mean to some of the people that may be listening? Okay, I'm retired from the Marine Corps. Okay? My last 2 checks have come in at the beginning of the month. My Social Security checks have come in. So what does the government shutdown mean to me? It is having no impact whatsoever. Right or wrong, I live in my own house, so I don't have housing insecurity. I have food in my pantry, on the shelves in the back room, and I'm getting paid. I do not have food insecurity. Before I came here, the oil company filled up my oil tank. So I do not have to worry about being frozen out of my house. Okay? So, for a lot of people, the government shutdown has no effect whatsoever on them. But for other people, the government shutdown has a big effect. Okay? If you take SNAP benefits or food stamp benefits, as of November 1st, you haven't got paid. Some states have plugged in and saying, yeah, we're going to pay you for 15 days. Okay? The court system is told the president stop paying people their benefits. The money's there. The government can switch around money to pay benefits. But the president decided he did not want to pay the benefits, was taken to court. Judge says you have to pay, you got to find money, because there was money put aside there. And so some people will be getting partial food stamp benefits. But then the administration came out, Department of Agriculture warned businesses, if you give discounts to people who are receiving SNAP benefits, you're violating the law. So, when we're talking about the government shutdown, it's not showing up. But you know what's one of the benefits of the government shutdown? Is the federal budget deficit. Okay, the deficit for the year coming up that started in October 1st it's just going like crazy. Downward. Yes, downward. So, with the increased tariffs and the government not spending, it's lowering the deficit. So when we go and say last year the deficit was like $2.1 trillion. Well, tariffs are looking to bring in about $400 billion this year. We're saving money, and so the deficit going forward for this year looks to be about $1.7 trillion. So when the next election cycle comes in, they can go and say, hey, we reduced the deficit by $400 billion. Well, that would be a true statement. But it wasn't done ethically. It wasn't done morally. It was done politically and in self-interest. interest of being reelected. And so, yes, we could argue back and forth food stamps. Yes, you know, there's a lot of people in red states that are on food stamps. Okay? Yeah. Okay? But it's important that Democrats don't take advantage of this in saying, like I said, hey, Senator Mitch McConnell, you see how many people in your state that are on food stamps? Okay. Well, is it their fault they're on food stamps? I don't think so. Because, oh, wait a minute. You have right to work states. You have low minimum wage states. Well, let's see. If you're saying, oh, minimum wage in the state X is 12 bucks an hour. In minimum wage in statewide is $7.25 an hour. Well, if Walmart was paying 12 bucks an hour in one state, less people who worked in Walmart in that state, percentage-wise, would not be on food stamps. But if you are working 28 to 30 hours a week on $9 an hour, and you're married and both you and your wife, so that's say 60 hours a week at $9 working at Walmart, that's $540. And so you have 2 kids. Yeah, you get free and reduced lunch. But wait a minute. So, 2 people working 30 hours a week, 60, getting $9 an hour, is $540 before Social Security and stuff like that. So you just take Social Security out, you say you don't have to pay taxes or anything. So let's just round it off and say, okay, a family of 4 has $500 a week to live on. Clothes, gas, car payment, food, all that kind of stuff. Because even though you're getting food stamps, it doesn't mean you're getting a lot of money with the food stamps. So basically, the government shutdown, one of the government shutdown reasons is a lot of people want to eliminate as much as possible of food stamps or SNAP benefits. It's all you have to do is look in the big beautiful bill. Because if we don't have to pay SNAP benefits, we can say the budget deficit has gone down. Hell with the people that'll have to starve. Hell with the people or going back until the 1930s where you have people in soup kitchens left and right because people could not make enough money to feed their families. They could not find good enough paying jobs to give their families the basics. Okay, the Democrats are going and saying, hey, we want all this funding back so these insurance rates won't go through the roof. Okay, this was in the one big beautiful bill. Well, will insurance rates go up? Yes, they will go up. Will they go up a lot? Yes, they will go up. But simple economics is healthcare. Okay, it would be nice if everybody had basic healthcare. But in a country like ours, we're never going to come up with the idea that everyone should rate basic health care. But we say we want, but we're just BSing. It's just a political type of thing. Because if I go in and find out that my health, if I much younger and I had 3 kids and stuff, and it says, okay, if your health care, if these subsidies disappear, my health care and my insurance is going to go up. Well, I'm on the Keene School Board, and we were talking last night at the Finance Committee. For a family plan in Keene, the taxpayers pay about $26,000. Okay? So if I have my wife and I have my 3 daughters and I can't get health insurance and I can't afford $26,000 or even say $500 a month, say $6,000 a year with a $13,000 deductible. That's what my daughter down in Georgia, they got their own business and their insurance is that, and they got a $13,000 deductible. Well, with 4 boys and stuff, $13,000 comes pretty quick. But they can afford it. They can afford the risk. So what will happen is, I would say, I can't afford health care, so I'm not going to buy health care because I have to feed my family, I got to pay my rent, all this other kind of stuff. And so, anytime there is something wrong with my family, I will show up in the ER. If I'm a private practice doctor, medical provider, I can be selective who I take as long as I don't do it by race or sex or religion. Okay? But I don't have to take people on for a new client. You know what? If I'm not going to make money, I don't take them on as a patient. So the Robertses, if they have a problem, if they get a cold really bad, the flu really bad, or stuff like that, we just show up in the emergency room. And so all of a sudden, something that could have been prevented or something that could have been, say, a $50 doctor visit and a prescription, now may end up causing thousands of dollars that a place like Cheshire Medical would never, ever get reimbursed on. Okay? So the Democrats are not really being truthful about this. The Republicans are not being truthful either. Okay, you go, well, it's going to lose all this. No, it's not going to lose all this. As much as it's saying, as the Republicans know, okay, do some illegal people vote? Yes. Do some immigrants illegal immigrants, migrants, or whatever get health benefits? Yes. Okay, do some get food stamps and everything? Yes. Okay? You know why? Because people cheat. Are there black people that get welfare and TANF and other ones that they don't rate it? Yes. Are there white people that do it? The answer is yes. Okay? Are there people that work for the government that take payoffs to get people on these benefits? Yes. Okay? But there comes a point where you have to look. Okay, if we go and say 3% of the people on welfare, or 3% that get housing, or 4% who get some get Social Security, or some get different things. When does it come not worth it to be spending all this time, energy, resourcing, money to go after those 3%? Because we're never going to get it down to 100% correct. So when the Democrats say, no, this isn't happening, they're lying. When the Republicans say, hey, this is what's happening, neither side is being truthful. When I was driving in, I was listening to Howie Carr. I always like to listen to him because I like to hear what the other side is thinking. Howie was so angry today. He was ripping people apart today. Oh, the guy who get elected to mayor of New York. Bingo. Or the guy who may be getting elected to the mayor of Minneapolis. And as I listen, they focused on such little things. Okay, the mayor of New York is limited to what he can do based on what the city council votes to authorize. It's like in Keene. It doesn't matter what the mayor wants. If the city council says, no, we're not approving it, all he can do is become frustrated because he can't ram anything down our throats. So, here's some of the things. Okay, air traffic controllers, they're not being paid. They haven't found any money to pay the air traffic controllers, so more and more air traffic controllers are not showing up for work. They're calling in sick. What's wrong with calling in sick? You're going to be reimbursed. If you get a bunch of sick time, why not take sick time when you're not getting paid and go be an Uber driver or be in a DoorDash to get money? Because you're going to get paid for your sick time. And air traffic controller is so stressful, so much overtime, that a lot of them don't get to take sick time. So what's happening is a bunch of the places do not have enough people to man the control towers, and which resulting in 2, 3, 4 hour delay. They're even thinking of closing off part of the country's airspace because they don't have air traffic controllers. Okay? Yeah, TSA people are not getting paid. they don't make a lot of money. So airline companies are bringing food in to TSA, the ones that are working, so they can eat. They're bringing food into different people around so they will show up to work and eat. Are they doing it out of the goodness of their heart? Hell no. They don't want planes canceled. They do not make money when a plane is canceled. And hundreds of flights are being canceled. Okay? Airports do not like planes being canceled because people are not coming in and buying a $5 bag of chips or a $3.75 bottle of water. They want people in because there's second and tertiary flows of income that is being going. Federal government. You know, every time someone buys a plane ticket, the federal government gets taxes that help pay for running the airports and stuff. So people are not flying. The federal government gets less taxes to pay for the airports. Right now, more than 1 million federal workers are required to come in and work their regular shifts without getting paid. The people that work in the VA hospitals have to come in, while there's tens of thousands of VA workers that work on the benefit side of the house who are being laid off. Some of them don't know if they're going to get their jobs when they come back. So some of them are saying, heck with it, I'm going to look for a job and I'm not going back because I've had enough of this. In the past, if the government shut down 2-3 weeks, everybody got their money back. They got all their back pay. The president stuff going, you know what? We're not really sure that we want to pay you. So, hey, you've been out of work for 5 weeks. We're not allowing you to work. And you may be working on your reserve fund, your emergency fund, and you're spending it down. You know what? Come on back, but you're not getting a penny. And so if you're making $1,500 a week, okay. Oh yeah, by the way, the 5 weeks that the government was shut down, oh, that's worth almost $8,000 to you. Forget about it. Now just think, how many people do you know, even if $1,000 a week, that's $5,000, saying, hey, guess what? I'm taking $5,000 out of your paycheck this year, and I expect you, hey, not to complain, not to have problems. Here's another part, okay? The Library of Congress is shut down. No one can use the Library of Congress. Okay? Me? I just live in a poor section of Washington, D.C., maybe in some government housing project or somebody that's funded by the city of D.C. And I'm part of the custodian staff in the Library of Congress. You go, hey, what's the matter, Mr. Roberts? You just had 5 weeks off and you're going to get paid. No, no, and no, because I am not a government employee. I'm a contract employee working for a firm that's been contracted by the federal government to take care of the maintenance in there. And so, since the people who have the contract are not getting paid, I will not get paid, and I will not be able to make up that money. That money is lost permanently. In some places, you can go and say, am I eligible for Social Security? Unemployment benefits? That depends. Okay. Hey, some of the ones, 42 million people will not get their full SNAP benefits. Okay. The president is using some of the money from tariffs because tariff goes into an unfunded account, and he's using that to partially fund WIC programs for mothers, infant, and children. Part of that, the question is, yes, you don't have to be an American citizen to get WIC funding. So there's an argument there. So you can go in and say, hey, this is the WIC, but you're not getting. So if the federal government goes and says, well, you know what, state X, we owe you $1 million a month for WIC, but looking at the rolls and everything that we've been asking you, only 85% of the people who are getting WIC in your state are U.S. citizens, and so instead of giving you $1 million a month, we will give you $850,000 a month, and you decide how it gets. Plausible denial, I am not withholding WIC funds. Okay? Guess what part of the season we're coming in? We're coming in the flu season, new COVID and everything. Oh, the Center for Disease Control, National Institute of Health. Guess what? The flu, the COVID-19, and the RSV data are not being updated. So we have no idea what the flu is like in New Hampshire today than it was on September 30th. We don't know if COVID is spiking. We don't know if RSV is going. Oh, sorry, none of that information will be provided until probably a week or two after the shutdown is over with. Head Start. Kids 3 to 5. A lot of them go to Head Start. Head Start makes up for a lot of learning deficits that these children have, so a bunch of them can get into kindergarten without being labeled special ed because the developmentally delayed, which then cost us a lot of money. We were again going through the budget last night. And do you know what a special ed kid costs in the elementary school? About $50,000 a year, compared to about $22,000 to a non-special ed child. So if Head Start funds are closed down, that means, and say 10 kids do not catch up. That's over $300,000 the King taxpayers would have to make up. We already discussed some of the premiums, air traffic control. Small Business Administration. Do you know that the Small Business Administration loans out $170 million to businesses every day? $170 million. So 10, 20, 30. Oh, that's $5 billion in small business loans that has not been issued. Just think, that means some companies are not going to make it. Nuclear safety workers. For the first time, nuclear safety workers have been furloughed. What could possibly happen at a nuclear plant? Right now, the government, and over the last 6 weeks, according to the Correctional Budget Office, has stopped basically, it should have been, they prevented $33 billion in spending from being spent, which has effect on jobs, businesses, and that number goes up. Okay. If the shutdown lasted 6 weeks, the federal government would have delayed $54 billion in funding for projects. That means $16 billion in wages and compensation that did not go out to federal workers. $36 billion that will not be spent on goods and services, and $2 billion not on SNAP. Okay, when we talk goods and services, cleaning supply, copy of paper, pens, pencils, a whole bunch of stuff. Things that are sold by small businesses. It doesn't seem like much, but say if you're a small business over here in, say, the city of Keene spent $10,000 a month on office supplies and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden 16 weeks, and I've been selling to the city of Keene, and I've lost $15,000 in sales. I'll get some back, but I won't get a lot of it back. Try going to a national park. That ain't happening. And so, you know what? You cannot even get a marriage certificate the normal way in Washington, D.C. Businesses that want to issue an IPO, it is pretty tough because the Security and Exchange Commission have been furloughed. Well, that's just some of the things that are happening. And for a bunch of people, the shutdown doesn't affect them at all. For other people, it affects them greatly. And the last one, military workers, service members got paid. And this is the last payment money that's available right now, unless they go out and find it, which they could, that the service members would be getting paid. And if the shutdown goes another 10 days, there's going to be a problem, and there's a good chance Congress will not be working this weekend, nor Monday or Tuesday, because Tuesday's a holiday. The President of the United States just seems to enjoy, I'm going to put this tariff here, I'm going to put 100 here, I'm going to put 25 here. I don't like that Ronald Reagan commercial that you put on Canada, so I'm going to put 25%. China, I'm going to put an extra 100% because you're not selling rare earth. India, I'm going to put another 50% because you're buying Russian oil. And he's just going on and on and on. Okay? Track the guys in Germany, Korea. you know what? We're not selling any more tractors or parts to the United States because they're made out of aluminum and steel, and there's a 50% tariff on that. So my tractor could be $75,000. So I have to break it all down and find out what percentage of the tractor is steel and is aluminum, and then add 50% to that. Okay? Not worth it. And so, and other ones is, I'm not going to sell stuff to the United States because I don't know what the tariff is going to be. If I go and say, oh yeah, this company in the United States wants to buy 20 of these X's. Okay, these X's, it's $100,000 and 15% tariffs. So it's going to be $115. So 115,000. So I'll cut a deal with the guy in the United States. You eat half the tariff, I eat half the tariff. Okay? But you get what you want. But then, the president says it's going to be 50% tariff. And I go, no, I'm not going to eat 25%, 25,000 of that tariff because that means I lose money. And the guy in the United States says, I'm not eating 25% of this because I won't be able to sell the product. So nothing goes. Oops. Ford goes, this is too expensive. I'll get rid of these middle management people. Oh, John Deere goes, I'm closing down my business because it just costs too much. You know, I got to pay this extra tariff on all these metals and stuff coming in. Okay, the roller coaster, up and down, up and down. Businesses need stability. They need to know what's going on. Because if I'm Mazda and I'm looking to say, well, I'm going to sell 500,000 cars in the United States next year. Okay, the tariff is going to be 10%. I can plan in, maybe I'll cut a little bit here, cut a little there to make it. But all of a sudden, I've built 250,000 of those cars, and the president says the tariff is now 75%. So none of these cars would be profitable, so I'm not going to build them, so I'm going to have to lay the people off, and I've got stuck with this product. Here's some of the things that Mr. Trump, this is out of American Progress, okay? The average household, so Mr. Trump is saying he's going to bring in trillions, but the number looks at like 400 billion. So the average household is going to spend $2,400 extra on tariffs. Tariffs are like it was before the income tax was unadjusted for inflation. So inflation allowed the government to collect more taxes by moving people up into the higher income. So President Trump can say, I have not increased taxes a single penny. And he can say, I've lowered the deficit. True and true. But we have, on the average whole, would be $2,400. Okay? If you're in the top 20%, yeah, the tariffs could be, my family has to pay $8,000 in tariffs. Probably won't make much of a difference. But if you're down here in the bottom making $30,000, $500 extra that you would have to pay makes a big difference, because if you're in the bottom, you're not going to make you're not going to get extra income. If I'm up here making $200,000 a year and I get a 4% pay raise, that's $8,000. And guess what? Tariffs don't take a single penny out of my pocket. The tariffs, because of the tariff, it adds $400 to your interest rate. It's causing almost 14% drop in business investment, which means less jobs. Okay. The average small business, like Ace Hardware, Hampshire, different like that, they're going to lose about 13% in business this year because of the tariffs. Maybe a little bit more next year. Okay, trains. Trains coming from Canada to the United States. Almost a 5% drop in supplies going back and forth. The average amount paid in tariffs by small business importers between April and July of 2025 this year was an additional $90,000. Then they're saying right now where you go is, let's round it off, 50% of that money has been passed on to the consumer and 50% has been sucked up by the importer because they didn't know. But the word is, the importers are no longer going to suck up the tariffs. They're going to pass the tariffs on. During for the summer, the 14 weeks of the summer, the average cost of the summer cookout for a family of 4 this summer was between 6 and 13%. I'm not going to blame the tariffs for healthcare. That's totally different. It should not even belong in here. Let's see. Ground beef. In January, ground beef was $5.55. Okay. So basically, and now in July, it was $6.25. Now in November, it's pretty close to $8. And the president says, oh, American people are way too high, so I'm going to import beef in from Argentina. Chicken breast. In January, when the president took over, it was $9.37. July, it was $4.20. And now it's 65 cents, but now it's pretty close to $6. Sirloin steak, what is that? Most people will stop buying that. That was $11.97. Right now it was in July it was $13.55, and now it's pretty close to $16. That's cheap sirloin, not top of line. Again, that's up. And of course, not too many people are buying that 95.5 hamburger or 85.15 or even 80.20. People are starting to buy 70.30. 70.30 tastes better, but got a lot of fat. And so, another thing, okay, look at the amount of fat, okay. In fact, between April and July 2025, American business that import have already paid an additional $67.3 billion compared to the same period in 2024 due to tariffs. Just think, 67.3, if you round it off, a 50-50, that means basically the American consumers have spent an extra $35 billion. So that's a $35 billion increase, which is a tariffs, a tax that you can't even take a tax deduction on. And the number of jobs created each month from July 2024 to July 25, especially after April 1st, Liberation Day, is going down. President Trump did not like the numbers, so he fired the person that was given the numbers, and she had been there for working for years. And he put in someone who has no experience whatsoever. Now, people don't even know what the numbers are because we got a shutdown, and because we have a shutdown, we're not giving any numbers out. Survey also found an average revenue drop of 13%, with 20% of business owners reporting losses more than 25%. According to one estimate in 2024, a typical small business earned about $1.22 million per year. A 13-year decline in that revenue will result in a loss of $159,000. Just think, you're earning 1.22, and that's not profit, and your loss in revenue is going to be almost $160,000. Government shutdown, tariffs, they're overlapping in the bottom middle class and the people that are working. Walmart and a bunch of these places, they're hurting. They're hurting really bad, while our political leaders are playing games.